principle also, you cannot call that language as object-oriented. So what is mandatory? You need to satisfy all principles. All principles should be satisfied here. Then that language becomes a fully object-oriented language. Okay. Now let's just go in and try to Pawan Kumar Reddy. Mr. Pawan Kumar Reddy. Stop the video here. What do you mean by dynamic binding? Who said you dynamic binding is not supported? It is a part of the polymorphism. Static binding, dynamic binding, all are part of polymorphism. Okay, so basically four only. Under that four only, everything should come. That's all. So encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. Okay, under that only all the things will come. Okay, now let's see how to implement all these things, guys. Let's see how to implement all the things. So first thing is, if you want to implement object-oriented programming, the first and the foremost thing what you're required to do is you're required to start from encapsulation. And encapsulation is already what we are following from the last 10 days. Not 10 days, at least 7-8 days we started programming. From that day onwards, we just follow an encapsulation, writing all the code inside a class. Okay? Guys, what is a class? Come on, what is a class? Collection of objects. No, everyone is wrong. I did not ask you what a class contains in it. I asked you what is a class. I answered you this question already in the last week. I'd say a class is a user-defined type. That is what I said here. And I said you also, remember, this is what you required to give the answer in the interviews also. What did I say? A class is a user-defined type. That's what I said here. Are you clear? What is a class? It is a user-defined type. Okay, it's a user-defined type, which is in turn a collection of members. A collection of members. Like, what are members a class can have? Fields, methods, constructors, finalizers, properties, indexers, events, deconstructors. So basically, if you take a class will contain 8 different types of members in it, and every member is designed for performing some particular type of action. You take a field. What is a field? Field is to hold a value. A field is to hold a value, guys. Understood my point or not? What is the use of a field? A field is to hold a value. If you want to use the hold a value, we use a field. Same way, what is a method? Method is nothing but an action being performed. When you call a method, it will perform an action to you. Like this, every member is designed to do a particular type of action. Okay? So what will a field do? Field will hold a value. Field will hold a value. So like this, I'll talk about each and every member and why do we use each and every member in the things. So already we completed discussion about fields. Already data types, field declarations, nullable value types. So a lot of things I explained about all these things to you already. Okay? So let us jump start from methods. Method. What is a method? What's a method, guys? It is a named block of code. It's a named block of code which performs an action when and where it is called. What is that? Yes, guys. A function is a block of code, and what it will do? It will perform an action. You called a sort method. Remember, when you call a sort method is performing an action of sorting the values in the array. You called a reverse method. Reverse method is performing an action of reversing the values of an array. You called a copy method. Copy method is performing an action of copying the values from one array to. Are you getting my point or not? So that is what? These are all the methods, and they will be performing some actions. When and where you call it. When and where it is called. You can call them, it will perform. Are you calling a method or not? You call all the methods, sort method, reverse method, right line method, read line method, you call, and they are performing the actions to you. Okay? And remember guys, means what is it? Internally when you call the method, some logic executes. Internally when you call, some logic executes. That's what we are telling, it's a named block of code. It's a named block of code which performs an action when and where it is called. Are you clearer or not? Okay? So when and where it is called. They are of two types. They are of two types. What are the two types? First one, value returning methods. Second one, non-value returning methods. What's a value returning method and what's a non-value returning method? Guys, you worked with both of them, guys. You learned both of them. Unknowingly, you may not be recognizing, but you worked with both. First one, read line. Read line is a value returning method. When you call read line, it returns the value what it has read in the form of a string. You captured it also. How? String str is equals to console dot read line. Remember, this method reads the value and returns the value, and you are capturing it now. Which type? String type. It's a string type. Okay? And one more thing. Int rows is equals to arr dot get length of 0. That tells you the rows. Int calls is equals to arr dot get length of 1. That will tell you the columns. And guys, understand here, all these are value returning methods only. Understood? Int I is equals to int dot parse Are you clear? Bool B is equals to int dot try parse Look guys, all these methods you worked till now or not? All these methods are value returning methods. We are capturing the appropriate values, don't forget this. All these are value returning methods. Means what is value returning method? Value returning method is, it will do an action and tells you the result of the action. It will do an action and tells you the result of that particular action. That is called as a value returning method. Second one, non-value returning methods. What are non-value returning methods? They will perform an action, guys, but they will not give you results back again. They will perform an action but will not give you results back again. Example, all these are non-value returning methods, so void methods. All these are non-value returning. What will they do? They'll print output on the monitor, that's all. They'll print the output on the monitor. Not only that. When you call that method, it will sort you, but it doesn't give you a new array again. I already explained to you, remember on that day? And when you sort, it will sort the values in the same array, another copy won't be created. Another copy will not be created for you. Okay? Array dot reverse array dot copy. Guys, you tried all these methods, guys. All these are non-value returning methods. So methods are two types. What are the two types? Value returning, non-value returning. What is value returning? Value returning means it will perform an action. Simple, I'll tell you. I'm giving you a small task to all of you. I'm giving a small task to all of you. I'm telling you, do this task. Do this task. So, you went home, completed the task. You went home, completed the task. Next day, when you came to the class, you have reported me. Yes, sir, I have done that. And this is the result I got. Yes, sir, I done that. This is the result I got. Now understand? You're performing an action and telling the result back to me now. So you're value returning. You are value returning. Second thing, you done that action. But next day you did not tell me I got the result. You got a result, but you did not tell me anything. You done that and sit silently. That is non-value returning. Did you understand me or not? Performing an action and telling the result back is value returning. Value returning. And performing an action but not returning a result is called as non-value returning. Are you clear? And basically, value returning methods are also called as functions. Value returning methods are also called as functions. And non-value returning methods are called as subroutines. Subroutines. Actually, guys, you learned about functions in C language now? Open the mouth. Learned about functions in C language now? But in C language, there is a big blunder, you know that? What is the blunder, you know? Function means must return a value. If it returns a value, only we call function. If it doesn't return a value, we should not call function. What I said to you now, there is a big blunder in C language. What is the blunder, you know? In C language, do you remember our teachers have taught us two types of functions to us? What are the two types of functions? Value returning functions, non-value returning functions. Do you remember? In C language, our teachers have taught us the two types of functions. What are the two types of functions? Value returning and non-value returning functions. But when it doesn't return a value, we should not call it function at all first. Function means must return a value, then only we call function. That is the reason why the modern programming language changed of the name function to method. Yeah, is a reason for changing the name. What did I say you last week? I said you remember from the 90s, the name is not function. We called as a method. From 90s, we called as method. Why the name change? Because if it is returning, not returning a value, you cannot call that as a function. What is the meaning of function? Function means the one which returns a value. Which returns a value only should be called function. If it doesn't return a value, we should not call function. Clear? So, methods are two types. Did you understand what are the two types of methods? First one is functions, means returns a value. Second one is means doesn't return a value. Clear? How do you define the methods now? The next thing is how to define methods. How to define a method. Guys, watch it. This is the syntax to define a method. This is the syntax to define a method. Modifiers, void or type, name, parameter list, statements. That is the syntax to define a method. Come on, let's talk about it. First one, modifiers. Modifiers. Already in the last week I said you, modifiers are some special keywords. Modifiers are some special keywords which can be used. On that day I explained you with class. Last week I explained you with class. And in class we can have modifiers, public. Last class also I said you internal. They all called modifiers. Okay? So modifiers are some special keywords that can be used on a method. Modifiers are some special keywords that can be used on a method. You can use these keywords on a method, guys. Okay? What are those keywords? We have so many keywords that are available that can be used on a method. Situationally, we'll be using different keywords on this particular methods actually. Read it, all of you. All these are modifiers only. Mandatory or optional? Optional. Your square brace there. What's the syntax? Even in the description also mentioned here. If required. Square brace implies optional, I said you already. So square brace means it is not mandatory, only optional. So there's so many keywords, guys, we can use them. I will teach you everything to you, every keyword I listed you, I'll explain you. When do we use and what is the use of it. But as of now, there is only option. Okay, next. Void or type. What is void or type? Basically, void or type indicates whether my method is a non-value returning or value returning. That's what. Because just now we learned methods are two types, non-value returning and so void indicates what? Non-value returning. Void indicates what? Non-value returning. No, I want value returning. You want value returning? Yes. Then tell what type of value you want to return. You want to return a integer, you want to return a string, you want to return a double. Any data type you can use now. Are you clear? Read this. Void is to tell our method is, void or type is to tell whether our method is value returning or non-value returning. That is, void implies that the method is non-value returning. Whereas if we want our method to return any value, then we need to specify the type of value it has to return by using the type. By using the type, we'll be telling what type of value we want to return. Okay, just now I said you write line and read line. Guys, clear method we call now. Clear. Value returning or non-value returning? Clear. Value returning or non-value returning? Non-value returning. Yeah, what will clear do? Clear the screen. That's all. It won't give you any result. It will clear you the things. Watch. Non-value returning. Clear is non-value returning. Right line is non-value returning. Read. Evaluate. What type of value is it returning? You already know that now? String. It returns a string. Get length. Value returning. Get length is value returning. Okay. So these are the examples for value returning and non-value returning. Okay. Now one important thing I want to tell you. What is that? Read this point, all of you, carefully. Read it. Louder. When I say return type, don't think like we can use only int, float, char, boolean, this one. I listed you 17 data types now. Not only those 17 data types here, we can also have our own data types also. We can define our own types and use them. I'll show you that. I'll show you. What did I say here? Every class is a type. Every class you define is a new type. Every structure you define is a new type. We can use them also. Okay, I'll show you practically about it. Okay, so don't think like it can only be this, but it can also be user defined types also. What next? The modifiers void type is clear. Next. Nothing to explain here. Name, the name of the method used for identification now. Write line, read line, sort, reverse. All these are the method names. Nothing to give an explanation for it. What next? Parameter list. Mandatory or optional? Optional. So what is this parameter list? If required, we can pass some values. If required, we can pass some values for a method to execute. If required, means optional. We can pass some values for a method to execute. If you want to pass, then you should define the parameters to receive the values. Array, string array, our main method string array is the best example. If I use string array, I can pass values to it now. If I use string array, I can pass values. If string array is not there, I cannot pass the values. That's all. If you want to pass any values, parameters has to be defined. Are you clear? Okay. How many parameters? Any number. How many parameters? Any number of parameters we can just pass. And all of you know one thing. Parameters will make a method dynamic. Parameter will make a method dynamic. What do you mean by that? What I mean by that is, based on the parameter, the results can change. Based on the parameter, the results can change. For example, 2 days back we called a getLength method. Remember getLength? When I pass 0 for it, 0 is the parameter what I'm passing now. It will get you rows. When I pass 1 for it, it will get you columns. So without writing 2 methods, they're given only 1 method and telling you that only will tell you rows and that only will tell you columns also. Yes or not? Otherwise, what is the other way to write? Two methods. One method to get the rows and one method to get the columns. Which one is better? Writing two methods or one method getting you different results? One or two? One. See, tomorrow I want to write a method that is going to print the multiplication table of 5. I want to write a method that prints the multiplication table of 5. So tomorrow, if I want the multiplication table of 6 again, I require to write another method then. 7 again, I require to write another method. I want the multiplication tables from 2 to 100. I require to write 99 methods now. Are you ready? Are you ready now? To write the 99 methods to print the multiplication tables between 2 to 100. Tomorrow I'll ask you 2 to 1000. I'll ask you 2 to 1000. How many methods you require to write now? 999 methods. You'll start crying now to write that much of coding. Yes or not? So you can simplify this by passing parameters. You can simplify this by passing the parameters. When I pass parameters, I don't require to write 999 methods or 99 methods. How many are enough? One is enough. I'll pass a number. Whatever number I pass, the multiplication table of that number should be printed. Okay? Read this, all of you. Just a minute. Just a minute. Read it. What it will make? It will make it dynamic. Example, get length. If I say 0 rows, 1 columns. One method doing different actions to you. Are you clear? Okay? And inside of it, what we write some statements or we write some logic. Write some logic. I'll show you. See guys, I'll show you the different varieties of writing a method. Okay, concentrate on this. Methods can be defined in 4 different varieties. Maybe we classify them into 4 different categorizations. What are the 4 you know? First one. Non-value returning methods without non-value returning methods without parameters. For example, look here. For example, all of you look at this. I'm using public as a modifier. I'm using void. Non-value returning then. Okay now? Name of the method. I'm writing the method name as test1. Without any parameters. I don't want any parameters at all. You see all of you now? The first one. Non-value returning method without any parameters. Are you clear? What do you want to write inside of it? I want to write code inside of it for printing the multiplication table of 5. I want to write the code inside of it for printing the multiplication table of 5. So what you do? Int x is equals to 5. For int I is equals to 1. I less than or equal to 10. I plus plus. Console dot write line. $0 into 1 is equals to 2. Wrong. Not 0 into. What we should write? X into y. Already explained here. X into y. What will this print me? Tell me. Multiplication table of 5. It will print you multiplication table of 5 from 1 to 10. From 1 to 10. 5 ones are 5, 5 twos are 10 until 5 tens are 50. This prints you. Now tell me what is the drawback of this method, guys? This method, whenever I call, will print me multiplication table of 5. That is fine. But will print me multiplication table of 5 only. So now tell me, is it dynamic or static in behavior? This method is a dynamic method or static in behavior. Static in behavior, always the same thing only will come for you. So this method is static in behavior. How to make it dynamic? If you want to make it dynamic, pass parameters. Pass parameters. By passing parameters, you can make it dynamic now. Shall we do that now? Shall we convert this into a dynamic now? How to do? Concentrate here, guys. Concentrate here. Public void test2 index. I'm writing the same code, but only difference is I'm passing a parameter here. What is a parameter? X as a parameter. I'm passing X as a parameter here. Tomorrow, when you're calling this method, which method? Test2. When you're calling this method test2, you can pass a value for this now. If I pass 10, it will print me multiplication table of 10. If I pass 123, it will print me the multiplication table of 123. I can pass any number there now. So this is static or dynamic? Static or dynamic? This is dynamic. Did you understand the point now? Parameters of a method will make an action dynamic. So this is dynamic in behavior. Hey guys, this only here what I said you here. Read again. And that's a live example I shown you there. If required, we can pass parameters to our methods for execution, and parameters of a method will make an action dynamic. It will make an action dynamic. Okay now? And these are all the things what we are just going to write right now. Okay? And what about this? This is also a non-value returning method with the parameters. I hope you understood the difference between the first one, second one. The first one is without parameters, second one is with parameters. But at the end of the day, both are non-value returning. Okay? Both are not going to return any value. Okay? Next. Next. Look at this. I wanted to write a value returning method. I want to write a value returning method without parameters. I want to write a value returning method without parameters. How to do? Watch. I'm going to write a method. That method returns string as a parameter. The method returns string as a parameter. Watch it now. It returns a value, but there are no parameters. It returns a value, but there are no parameters. Now inside of this, guys, I have declared something like this. String str is equals to hello world. I have a string like this. I have a string like this. My intention is to convert this string into uppercase now. Well, intention to convert the string into uppercase. So the action what I want to do is converting the string into uppercase now. Okay? Watch. Str is equals to str dot to. That will convert the string into uppercase. Finally, I'm going to send the results out. How? Return str. Look at this, all of you. It's a value returning method. It is a value returning method. It's a value returning method. Printing the value is not returning a value here. Printing the value means, Shika, can you capture that value? That is printing the value you're telling now. Can you capture that value and store in a database table? Answer asked here. You ask a question and don't respond again. That is what. But I can capture this value and store in a database. Returning means we need to be in a position to capture that value. Displaying the output on the monitor is not returning a value, that is printing the value. Returning is different, printing is different. Both are not same. Okay? So guys, you see now, you just see now that returns a value. Now tell me guys, can I capture this value and send it to a database for storing or not? Yes or not? That's what, returning a value. It is the point here. So this is, now tell me, this is static or dynamic? Static or dynamic? Static is again static in behavior. Why sir? Because always it will convert hello world only into uppercase here. Can you make it dynamic? Can you make it dynamic? Tell me how to write the logic. Louder. Come on guys, type it. Online students, type it. Make it dynamic. Tell me the first line. Just first line. Open the mouth, yaar. Tell me. Public. Spring. Test 4. By starting. Test 4. We are writing a new method. Test 4. Now what do you do? Sure. So once you do that, automatically this method becomes dynamic. Dot to upper and simply say return str. Guys, remember, this is dynamic in behavior. This method is dynamic in behavior. And see now, this is with parameters. So totally 4 different combinations I shown you. Non-value returning, non-parameterized. Non-value returning, parameterized. Value returning, non-parameterized. Value returning, parameterized. Are you clearer, all of you? So this is what exactly we have just done in this particular case. This is what exactly we have done in this particular case. So value returning, non-value returning are how we have just defined up all the things. Is it clear or not? Understood now? So this is about how you define the methods in the code. This is how you define the methods inside of your particular code. Okay? So this is completely about defining the methods inside of your particular code. Okay? So there are the 4 methods. Showed you 4 methods to you. Now answer my question, guys. All of you carefully think and answer. Where do we define methods?
Now better.
Where do we define methods? Inside a class. Yes, inside a class. Why? But why non-value returning also there? Security okay, but I want the exact word. Encapsulation, yeah, that is the answer you should give. Encapsulation. Where you define the method, method should be defined inside a class as per the rule of encapsulation. Are you clearer or not? Method should be defined inside a class as per the rule of encapsulation. Following the rule of encapsulation, you require to define all the methods inside a class. Okay? Guys, observe. Yesterday I showed you how to create a project. Yesterday I showed you how to create a project for all of you. Okay? Come on guys. Watch. I'm opening the studio. I'm going to create a new project. Go for Consolia. Consolia. And select console app. Select the console app. Okay? Click next. Give a name. I'm giving the name as Oops Project. I'm giving the name as Oops Project. And we'll save in our own folder. What's the folder? C#8. Click on the next button. .NET 6.0, click on the create button. And what did they say you guys, if you're working on 2022, program.cs file will be there without any code. You will have a top level statement there. That's all. What is it? Delete it and write your code there. Yes or not? Delete it and write your code there. Delete of this code and write your code now. What's it? Namespace. What's your namespace? Your project name is only your namespace, remember? Yeah. Namespace.